All right, all right, all right. We're going to try this again. I was live just a little while ago for about 17 minutes until one of our kind souls followers, Darren, sent me a chat saying, "Ann, can't hear you." So I just fumbled around like a jackass trying to figure out what the heck was going on with the audio. So hoping you guys can hear me now. If you can't, please put it in the comments because I'm going to do a little. Oh, it's working. I can hear myself. Okay. Groovy. So we are live. My audio's working. Hopefully for those of you who left us, you'll come on back because I pretty much rambled. It was great. So a couple of you were really involved in watching and probably couldn't hear a damn word I was saying. So all right. Enough of the goofiness. Hopefully you guys can hear me just fine now. I've gotten this great little I was looking for this. This thing was hiding, but it's a great little audio piece. So, where were we? I was on a live a little while ago and was making a little bit of an ass of myself because I didn't have audio working at all. However, we're going to jump back into the topic, which is we're talking about the moving to Portland and the Portland real estate market and all things included in there. So, if you jump on this chat, feel free to ask any questions as we go along. But essentially, what I was trying to convey in my earlier live that was sort of an epic fail, but hey, it was my first live, so we learn. But we were talking about how do people make this move to Portland? What are they doing to like actually feel comfortable making the move to Portland? And I was saying it can apply to anywhere you choose to move. But we oftentimes have people that have to move here because of work, relocation, or they are trying to move to have a different lifestyle. They like what they know about the Pacific Northwest. Sometimes it's weather related, sometimes it's activity related, sometimes it's politically related. But at the end of the day, if you have visited the Northwest and you know how absolutely beautiful it is, and we have so much to offer. And again, I know we got problems. Everybody loves to point that out anytime they hear about Portland because we were in the news so heavily back in COVID times, but it has its cons. We talk about that on the channel. We have videos on that, but every place does. In fact, something I've been noticing as a trend is a lot of our clients who moved out the last few years, guess what? They're calling us and moving back. So, what does that tell you? Some people just feel like they never made the other states they moved to home and they want to come back. Other people said it wasn't quite what they thought. So, at any rate, Portland's a great place to live. And if you're going to make the move here, we usually oftentimes tell you if you don't know much about Portland, do some research. Obviously, being on our channel, that'll help you. But more importantly, getting on a Zoom call and explaining what it is you're hoping to find when you get here. A lot of times we're very quick to help understand like what is it that you need to know and where is it you need to maybe be looking, especially if you're making some roots here and you're going to be buying something and you need to have a certain commute or a certain school district or a certain type of community or a lifestyle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We do find a lot of cult followers come to Portland. Like, let me give you an example of that. Sellwood. I call that people. It's so crazy to me how many people move here and they already know they want to live in Sellwood. They're already like, that's where I want to be. That's the homework I've done, the X, Y, and Z. And literally when they get here, they buy here. So if you're a cult follower to any particular neighborhood or area of Portland, that always is helpful. But if you're coming in totally blind, that's Billy. He might be joining us a time or two. He has something to say about location, of course. Right, right, Billy. Um, uh, hey, Billy, we're doing a live. Okay, you're welcome to join me. You want to join me? No? Okay. So anyway, going back to what we were talking about, oftentimes if you need to focus on relocation because of job, then do you have the good fortune of working from home? So maybe you don't have to worry about commute, but in the event that you have to go in to work, you're going to want to know what that looks like because commuting ain't right around town. You don't want to choose way over on the east side if you have to work way over on the west side. So real important to know what that looks like for your needs and wants. And if you don't know where that is, if you're like, God, I don't know where to even begin, then let us help you out. what typically happens on your initial, let's say we jump on a Zoom, is you tell us what you're hoping to find, what your budget is, what the goal of it is, and then we're like, okay, here's the areas you might want to consider. Oftentimes, we're bringing up houses you or areas you may not have thought about. Um, 50% of the time, a buyer buys something completely different than they thought. Why is that? Okay. It's because you either just don't know what the market is able to give you, meaning you have a budget and the budget is going to determine more so of what you're looking for locationally or conditionally, or maybe you just didn't, you thought you wanted something but then it completely changes during the process. Like oftentimes people walk into a house and they're like, whoa, I did not expect that house to make me feel the way it did. I want to buy that house. And we kind of giggle and laugh afterwards because all of a sudden this house now is something you've chosen to buy and it's nothing like what you told us to. And we kind of laugh together. We don't make you feel stupid, but we just kind of giggle and go, "Yep, yep, that happens a lot." Um, so and then quite frankly, a lot of times people just have no sense. So the next concept I talked about on the previous live before didn't realize I had no audio was scouting, coming to Portland for a trip, come check it out, get a feel for it, see a few homes, see a few neighborhoods, drive around. Oftentimes people are shocked how quickly they get informed about Portland because of it's a pretty easy town to understand once you get here. It is a what we call kind of a small big town. We have a city, we have a downtown, we have lots of suburbs, but it's not big enough to, it's not like a Dallas Fort Worth or some of these other like Phoenix, Arizona is to me when go there. Uh it's like the most vast place, most vast city I've ever been to. It just seems like you're driving and you're driving and you're driving and it's like, you know, a very big encompassing city. But Portland is pretty easy to figure out. In fact, we have these great maps. Um, I'll kind of show you. And if you want one, I'll be happy to send you one. But these maps are fantastic. We oftentimes will mail these out to people, or if they're in town or come into town, we sit and kind of look at one of these because this map is the perfect map to sort of focus on. Okay, if you're working over here, you might want to shop for homes over there. These are great. So hit me up if you're looking for a fantastic map that'll really help you understand things a lot better, including freeways and such. But it really is important to know what your goals of your move are. There's a lot of people that just move here strictly for lifestyle. They want the culture, they want the food scene, they want the walkability, they want all those things that only Portland really has. And we're still the most affordable West Coast city, by the way. A lot of people come from California because they still want to be on the West Coast. Their dollar gets them so far here. It's crazy. They salivate at our pricing because they usually sell their, house down in California and can pay cash or, get something so much more robust up here in the Pacific Northwest. Likewise, you go up to Seattle and your average sales price is pushing $1 million. And I love Seattle, but sales prices are higher. Traffic is way worse. So just be aware of that if you're thinking about making the move out here. If you're from the West Coast, you won't be too shocked by the pricing. But if you're from the Midwest or cheaper locations, it can be really alarming to move. We've actually had a handful of clients over the last year just because they're coming from a much cheaper area and what they would sell their property for to buying over here was, not as advantageous, and so they elected not to even move. So if pricing is a factor, get a sense of that before tease yourself with moving out here. Um, Also, the biggest thing, of course, we always tell people is you just have to get pre-approved. We're not in a world anymore where we can just sort of hope and pray that you've got all the factors. And budget is everything, especially with the interest rates the way they are and the volatility of that, and just being able to factor in a lot more costs. And right now, just so you can kind of be aware of what's happening in Portland, the Portland real estate market, we're in spring, and this is usually our highest level of sales for Portland happens in May. Like we kind of have a bell curve market where it's like January, February, March, April, May, boom. And then we kind of hover out at that level for a while. And then we kind of slide down. And we have slow moments in the middle of the year, like around June when kids are getting out of school, graduations, summer hits, people are on their vacations. And then we have kind of a lift up again in like July, midsummer. And then right before school starts, quiet again. And then after school starts, we kind of have it's a little bit of a slower pace till the end of the year. But sometimes we get hit with end of the year booms because we get a lot of people who relocate here and their companies are always trying to push them to get it done before the end of the year, probably for their own bookkeeping reasons. But overall, we have low inventory in Portland all the time. It crept up a little bit this last winter time because interest rates were at 8%. And that usually means we're not having a good time in the real estate market. Things are very, very expensive. But in general, that's we tend to see that we don't have quite enough inventory. And so right now in the springtime, um, about 35 to 37% of all homes that are going under contract are going in over the list price. That's indicative of the spring market, which is usually, we're moving at a faster pace. The buyers are out and about. And this, of course, the sellers are all trying to get on the market in this spring activity mode. So it's a little faster paced right now, but that will kind of die off. And what I've also seen is that some of these multiple offer situations, like we were just in one and we just won one for our client and great house, but both offers that came in were under the list value. So, we're seeing a lot of that. So yeah, multiple offers, but not necessarily all of them are going over the list price to win it. Some of them are in fact competing under it. And so that's interesting stuff right there. And that can happen. So we're kind of also seeing a trend where some houses are sitting for a long time, maybe because they're overpriced. They're starting off too aggressively, and then other times because, you know, it's uh you know, it's just the nature of how much inventory might be in that particular area. Yeah. So, anyway, if you're on this channel and you have questions about anything to do with the Portland market, then hit me up. Let me know. We're just talking shop tonight, um, this afternoon before dinner time. so, yeah. So, Erica and I, we run a channel called Portland Life. We're doing weekly videos with all kinds of things to look at via video that you can check out on our YouTube channel. So if you're not actively subscribed, hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell so you can be aware of all the videos that come out and discuss different scenarios. Like this last week, we did a great video that will come out in a few weeks on like acreage properties, since we're really familiar with those. We're doing a series on 55 or older communities because we do have a huge demand for people that are looking for housing, active adult housing. Don't have a ton of it. And then, of course, all the fun neighborhoods that people love to learn about when they move to Portland. And it's always fun to do those because you can kind of quickly see what kind of properties that you get for your money and what price points they offer, and just kind of get a sense of the neighborhood, the parks, the schools, the things like that. So we're having a lot of fun with it. And hopefully you guys are enjoying them. Back to the topic at hand. So oftentimes we also when people are moving in, we get a lot of requests for people who can't just fly into town on a whim, or the properties they want just aren't on the market at the time they may come in to look. So we do a lot of video tours where we're kind of touring the home either on FaceTime or by other methods so that clients can kind of see what did they get for their money. If there's a house that looks of real interest and we're like, hey, we got to go check this out, we will take them with us and pop on our phones and do a live, FaceTime or whatever means to have them be able to see it interactively. That happens all the time because people are living out of state and, they're not all living here locally and can only fly in here and there for different things. So, yes, we are actively doing that for a lot of people, and that's very common. I get even requests when I list properties for people who are like, "Hey, I've got a client who's out of town. This house might work for them. Can I go by and show it virtually?" And I'm like, "Of course you can. We understand that completely." So, um, yeah, very, very easy methodology these days with the technology at hand to be able to show properties. I was just texting with my team member Erica. Um, so yeah, we're closing on we closed on 3 properties this week, which is great. And one of them is just super exciting because the buyer came to us and was like, "Here's what we want. We want a view and we want walkability, and here's our range. And we thought, whoa, that's not going to be easy to find. That's actually going to be very difficult to find. But we found it. We found the perfect house. They could not be more excited. And we showed them a lot. So it's just exciting when it all comes together and when they're so excited and they know this is the right fit and they're it's just a lot of fun to see all that come together. So um yeah, so Portland real estate market, let's go back to that. So I always tell people, a lot of people have been asking, are interest rates going to come down? This is like the question of the year for us. Some people feel like they should wait to see if interest rates come down. Um, the Feds unfortunately pump out a lot of information, and it almost seems like over the last 6 to 9 months, everything they've said has not come true. um, they always threaten us with a real good time, aka high, low interest rates, and then you don't see them go down, you see them go up. And they kept telling us at the beginning of this year, interest rates are going to go down, they're going to go down, they're going to go down. And all we've seen them do is go up. They've gone up, they've bounced back down, but we haven't seen them do anything real exciting on the lower side yet. But we are in an election year, everybody. So keep that in mind. I have been doing this for 23 years and I've seen a lot of elections at this point. Typically, they kind of lower them a little bit before the election because, of course, who's in office is going to want to fire up the real estate industry and get people buying houses because it, looks good. And again, we've just been told, like by the Feds, that, oh, yeah, we might see some downward pressure on interest rates come June. But then they kind of said that for the spring, and that didn't happen. We saw interest rates as high as 7. So I don't know that we need to fully trust that they're going to go down. We are just telling people operate as if they are not going to change. How about that? Because then you won't be disappointed if they don't go down. Um, and like we always say, if they ever go down again to anything lower than what we're dealing with, that's great. But you want it to be a solid 1% if you're ever going to refi. Typically, just makes more financial sense. But if you're hoping and praying for 3, 4%, even in the fives, I don't think it's going to happen. I think with all the inflation news that we have dealt with over the last couple of years, they cannot imagine a market where interest rates go down to 5%. This market would take off running. People would be going back into, the prices would get jacked up again. It would be a really unhealthy situation. And I can tell you that anytime we have seen double digit appreciation in the real estate market, it leads to a sobering effect later. It's like we all have a party for like a year or two, and then boom, the market slows down or inflation kicks in like it did after COVID. The whole anomaly of 2020 and 2021 is crazy. I mean, the only time I've ever seen a market remotely close to that was in 2005 through about 2006, part of 7. And then guess what happened in 2008? It went crashing down. Now, that is a totally different reason why it crashed. Do not believe that it's going to crash. The market that we did in 2008 through 2012, I survived that. I worked through that. I was in real estate during that time, before, during, and after. And I will tell you, I saw things before that they were giving loans to everybody and anybody. You didn't even have to have a job. Seriously, it was disgusting. So guess what happens when you do that? And you create loans that are predatory or loans that are, inevitably going to fail that person, and then the market falls and then you have what you have. So I have to remind people, it is not that market. It is much more difficult to get a loan these days. They have protocols in place that they designed after that whole recession so that we don't fall into that problem again. But what we can expect when we go up too high too fast, like we did in 2020 and 2021, when interest rates were too low and everybody was buying and everybody was going crazy and prices were going up insanely, is that sometimes there is an aftershock effect. And what we're experiencing right now is affordability is a crisis for a lot of people. And we're seeing that with buyers. We have a handful of buyers that we get them pre-approved, and the prices that they're getting pre-approved at, there's just no inventory to show them, or the type of house you have to show them is not something that makes sense for them. And so, these interest rates are still considered on the higher side, although they're considered normal if you look at like a 20-year average. When I got into real estate back in 2001, they were about 6, no, they were at about 8%. Yeah, they were right around that 8% marker, and people thought those were a deal. I remember there was a big refinance boom back then because I guess people were, dealing with higher interest rates before that. And then when they got to the 6s, people were going crazy. They thought those were like cheap. Yay, thanks Darren. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for letting me know my audio wasn't working for anybody watching. I did a live before this and was yapping away and I had no audio. So it was like and then Darren came to save the day and he said, "Ann, great that you're doing a video, but I can't hear a darn thing." So I found some audio. So we're all good now. Thank you to Darren for that. We owe him. But yeah, I am just talking about the Portland real estate market, and of course, I'm comparing it right now, or not comparing it to the what happened in the previous recession of 2008 through 2012, which I survived. I was there from beginning to end. That was a nightmare market. Nightmare market. I think half the houses on the market were REOs and short sales, and I became the short sale queen. I mean, oh my lord, it was like that's all we ever did was short sales. And they call them short sales, which we all joke about because they're called long sales to me because it took them like 8 to 9 months just to finish a one deal. But that's another discussion for another day. But the point of what I say all that for is that we're not in that market. I think I keep hearing even one of my own vendor partners, my carpet guy, I sold his house a few years ago and he's been waiting for years for the market to crash. Today I saw him because we had to go get carpet for a listing of ours. And he's like, "I'm waiting for the market to crash, Ann." And it's like, well, just keep waiting, my friend. I don't know what's going to happen. Now, is it possible we could see the prices soften? Sure, absolutely. Are we seeing some parts of Portland or some types of housing where price reductions are happening more and more and they're not getting those crazy prices? Yeah, I think we're hitting kind of a ceiling. That's what I would say about this. We're kind of hitting a ceiling with a lot of prices where as a seller, we're seeing people start at a price that maybe they are hoping to get, or they thought maybe a neighbor a year or two ago sold for, and they're hoping that their house is good enough. And then later they're coming to the conclusion that, okay, we can't quite ask for that. And they're having price reduction before they eventually get absorbed, or a buyer sees them as like the right value. But in general, we're not seeing a crash. A crash is really a loss of value of more than 20%. So anytime you see market cycles where people list, but then you see a good chunk of the housing market closing out at prices substantially less than what they listed for, or you're seeing, market stagnation where houses just aren't selling, and we're not seeing that in Portland. So the last I checked, we're at 2.8 months of inventory in Portland, which means that if we had no other houses come on the market in Portland, we would technically sell out in 2.8 months. And that's not very much. They always say like a balanced market is about 6 months. We haven't seen 6 months here in Portland in 12 years since the last recession. I don't know that, and keep in mind, it's microeconomics. There are some areas of Portland where there is inventory that might look like it's 6 months. Not many, but then there's other neighborhoods where it's maybe 3 months worth of inventory or 2 months worth of inventory, or in some cases right now, there's areas that have less than one month of inventory. And those areas are usually you're seeing the multiple offer situations happen and it gets kind of crazy out there. So um, that's the thing too, is if you're making the move to Portland or you're looking to buy, really understand what is the market doing in those locations. Are they on fire? Are we seeing the average sales price sell above it? Or like in some cases, I did a market assessment for a client recently, and we discovered that most of the houses on the market are taking about 72 days, and 90% of them are having at least one price reduction before they eventually sell. So that is the situation where it's like, okay, we know that we can come in and negotiate harder. So just something to keep in mind when you're, making a an a trying to figure out what the Portland market's doing specifically for a house that you want. Now, in the more affordable price ranges, which here in Portland is in the 500 zone, like we do have a buyer right now looking in the 500s, and it is hyper aggressive because that is the most affordable price point we have, and stuff goes really quick, especially if it's halfway decent. A lot of the inventory in there that range is not super decent. A lot of there usually is some kind of work that needs to be done. They're not entirely updated, or they're on a busy road, or et cetera, et cetera. So you have to be prepared even at that price point to know that despite what's going on in the market, a lot of times those first time home buyer or more affordable price points tend to they tend to go fast. So first time homebuyers tend to have a lot more um, competition, regardless of um, the fact that the market could be really slow in the higher end property price points, but down at their price point it's a lot less. So just something to keep in mind, depending, of course, on where you're looking. Now, condos and townhomes, there's always those kind of formats of houses. So if people are really on a budget, they can look in those price points and typically find inventory in the 300 and 400 range. But again, you're dealing with HOAs, and HOAs can be three, four, $500 a month. And you just always need to do your own vetting on condos and townhomes to make sure that you understand what that HOA is going to be like, that they don't have any like financial issues going on that you would take on or be a part of. So we always try to warn people a little bit about that. But essentially, it's just a really important to know. We always tell people it's a microeconomic market when you're a buyer. Yes, it's like saying it's 80 degrees in the United States today. Well, we all know that's not true. It might be 80 degrees in Arizona and 45 degrees in Portland. It's the same thing with houses and locations. If you're looking at a certain price point and location, depending on what you're looking for, it could be a fast-paced market that you're going to be, having to write offers up against other offers, or it could be inventory sitting in that area and you have a lot of negotiating power. So it's just important to know kind of what to face when that happens. But if you are thinking about making a move to the Portland metro area and you're thinking about, assessing what can you get for the money, what is the market doing in there? What does the market do throughout the year? Because throughout our year, Portland responds differently in the market. Some people like to wait till fall when it's a little bit of a quieter market. Usually, by the way, in an election year, we find things slow down a little bit right before the election because everybody's in hesitation mode and like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? Who's going to get elected? And then it sort of breaks free after we know who's elected. So it's going to be an interesting year in real estate here in Portland for sure. I'm sure all across the country, but there's a lot of things going on. We could totally dive deep into a lot of things, but I just wanted to kind of cover a general sense of what the real estate market's doing, how people kind of make decisions on making a move out here, and really just jumping on live and kind of interacting with some people, or at least getting, we're going to start doing more and more lives. So if you are tuning in, stay tuned because Eric and I are planning on doing another live on a topic here in the near future. This has been a lot of fun to start this channel. And if you guys have any comments or any specific videos you want us to cover about Portland, whether it's a neighborhood or some topic regarding Portland, let us know. We are going to be, like I said, doing lives, and we're going to be we pump out a video every few days. So stay tuned for more. And again, hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and we'll see you on the next live. Bye, everyone.